Welcome back to the High Insecurity by Insecurity online book club. We are at week 8. Can you believe it? Talking about the cure. Last week we went over the damages, and I know for a lot of people that is like really an intense chapter. I had people text me and say, "Oh my God, I had no idea you went through all of those things," or "I had no idea about your testimony." Let me tell you, you can never look at a person and tell everything that you need to know about them. You can't look at someone and tell some of the things that they've been through. People are a book of secrets. And the only reason you now know what you know about me is because I opened up my book of secrets. But people have been through things that you would have no idea about unless they show you or tell you. And I know that that was an intense chapter. I know that for a lot of people it hit home. I had people text me saying, "So what happened after that?" And they kind of wanted to know more. And I kind of went into a little bit more in chapter 8. But we're talking about the cure. The reason you probably got the book or gave it to someone or read and say at some point you're not gonna just tell me about all my problems. You're gonna tell me how to deal with them. And so that's what we're talking about in this chapter is the cure. And I just kicked it off right away in the first part of the chapter saying there is no such thing as a permanent cure for our insecurity. But all hope is not lost. I know some people read that part. They said this girl done took us through 7 chapters, telling us all about our problems, diagnosing and just whipping out her business. And we get all the way to the end of the book. And she has the nerve to tell us in the chapter that's called The Cure that there is no such thing as a cure. Listen, I wouldn't be telling you the truth if I sat here and told you you do A, B, and C and it's going to be great and then you'll be done and life is wonderful. No, listen, there is no such thing as a permanent cure for any of the problems that we have. We're only as cured as we are connected to God. And so the reality is when it comes to insecurity, it's something you face your whole life in some form or the other. It's never going to be a time where there aren't moments where it tries to creep back in. Now, this can be circumstantial insecurity that is prevalent, when new things come, even for older people, when they start getting older and experiencing health issues or they're no longer able to work, they can tend to feel insecure because their independence is being taken. Or for the person who gets married, they're now filling shoes or a role that they've never done before. These are things that you'll face as a healthy part of life. Now, in regard to characteristic insecurity, it is possible to get to a certain place in your life where this thing is so checked and you're so sure of who you are and who God is that if it even tries to creep back in, it's dealt with immediately because you now have a power and a truth, which I've referenced over and over again, to be able to deal with it and say, you know what, I already see where this is coming from. No more lies are going to get back in here. No more mistruths, no more preconceived notions. I'm free enough to be able to check that thing before it finds root. But there's never not going to be a time where you're not challenged to face things that may make you feel insecure or unsure of yourself. And so it's not a 1, 2, 3 step. It's not like Insecurity Anonymous where you go through a 12-step program and it just never shows back up. No, the beauty of it is you know how free you are when it does show back up by how you deal with it. So you never want to be without it being there because you really don't know how much you've grown. You have no meter or measuring tool to use. So it's a beautiful thing for it to pop back up because you start to say, ooh, the me that used to would melt when something like that happened is now like, I'm good. So it's wonderful to be able to have this to pop up to see how you deal with it. The second point that I sent out this week in the notes is you are only as whole and healed as you are connected to God and yourself. I just said it a few minutes ago. A cure consists of your connection to God, to truth, to reality, to who you are. We're evolving and changing constantly as life changes and our circumstances change. you are only as stable as you are sure of those things. There's times in my life where things change and evolve, and as I transform and become, you know, just face new challenges in life, it is often that I feel a little bit disconnected from who I am or what God is saying to me in that season. Like right now, I'm going through a season, and it's kind of like, God, what are you saying? And who am I? And it's beautiful to grow and to change, but you're trying to figure out where you're at now. And I had a moment the other night where I just cried and I said, God, I just need you to give me some sense of stability because I just feel a little bit all over the place and I just need some footing. And it becomes a wonderful thing for him to readjust you according to where you're at and where you're going and how you're growing. For him to have the privilege of saying, let me just fix this and scoot you over here and whisper this in your ear and tell you that. And as you become more stable and sure of who he is and who you are, you find the security that you need. And so anybody looking to be secure outside of being connected to themselves and their reality and his, you're always going to be grasping at other things, supplementing to try to find a sense of stability. But when truth is a rock and an anchor inside here, it's like you're like this. Stuff could be like all around you, but you're like, it's going to be all right. Trust me on this, all right? Third point, keys to wholeness. And I talk about this in the chapter. Transparency, letting God in, identity, and walking in the spirit. These are the things that if there's anything you can call a cure, is what it consists of. Being transparent, letting God in, establishing a sure identity, and walking in the spirit. The thing about transparency, I love how people, a lot of times when they reference transparency, they they think of it in terms of you being transparent with other people. And let me say this, whenever people say, she kept it real, I'm just being real. Most people that say that, they say that after they've told somebody else off or blasted somebody else's business or talked about somebody else's business. This idea that being real means checking people and putting them in their place or telling it like it is. To me, it's inaccurate and it's not true and it's unfair to use other people to be real. The reality is you don't have to tell anybody anything to be real. Being real starts with yourself. And sometimes that consists of not saying a word or telling anybody any of your business. Transparency, the art of transparency starts here, where you're honest enough with yourself about what you feel and then being willing to talk to God about that. Sometimes that means not even talking to anybody else about it or having a say with anyone else, but it's the ability to finally be able to admit some things to yourself. That's where transparency starts. Talking to other people a lot of times is the last step. They get the benefit of the resolved transparency, but being able to resolve it starts with you and then with God. And so a lot of times when people call for you to be real, they're really asking for you to tell your business. It is the truth. She's not real. And they think that being real is you telling shameful, embarrassing, private things about yourself just for the sake of getting it out there. Listen, we need to reestablish what being real and what truth is. It's here and it's here. And if it never leaves anywhere else but here and here, you're still real. Because sometimes the hardest thing to do is admit things to ourselves. People that have gone through traumatic events, abuse and rejection and so many other things, very traumatic things. Sometimes it's very hard to sit and say to yourself how it's made you feel, what it's done to you. And when you get to that point where you can be transparent enough to yourself, now you're on the road to finding a cure to some things that plague you, because this war that lies within here and within here is enough to keep you in one spot for your entire life. The realness starts with you, and then it starts with God, all right? Number two, if you fail to let God in, you fail to find clarity and truth concerning yourself. It stops the process short. Listen, the person that made you, constructed you, made you the way you are, made your mind to think the way it is, made your where you come from, and all of these ingredients that he's put together in your life to bring this beautiful result. When you don't let that person in, whatever truth you get about yourself, you only are getting it in part. What God does is you come to some conclusions with yourself after you're transparent, and then he comes in and brings the balance. And he'll say, let me take this part out, let me take this out of here, let me take this out of there, because those aren't true. But the truth that I do see, let me mold it and give you perspective on it. He begins to reveal things to you that you otherwise would not have seen without him, or he brings the balance and the sense of surety and any synopsis or thoughts or things that you're not really sure of. He comes in and he says, I know you're thinking this and I know you're feeling that. It's true. It's right. Or he begins to reveal things to you that you otherwise would not have seen. And it's such a beautiful relationship. It's very possible to be physically alone, have no one, for everyone to abandon you and reject you, but you have God and you feel like you have everything. And so this process of letting God in is so critical and so important. And this is I want to talk to the people that may be angry with God, because it's a lot of people that are angry with God and they're either in denial about it or won't admit it or may not even see it. They may be offended at God for any number of reasons. We get upset at God for the way our life is, and losing a parent early, or losing whatever we've lost. It usually has to do with loss or what we feel like we're lacking, and we're like, God, well, what is your job? Like, you're just gonna let this happen? Really? And the good thing is being able to admit to God that that's an issue. If you can't admit that, I don't know what kind of relationship thrives apart from truth. And so letting God in is such a vital part, because every step that you take, he helps you take two more. So if you're trying to get from here to here and you're able to get here on your own, you need God for these steps. That's what he does, y'all. Okay? Next, your identity is proof of what you identify with. If it is based on lies, you live this out. The art of establishing identity, I want you to pay attention to these steps. So you're transparent with yourself. You let God in and he takes you a little bit further and he starts to establish the truth of who you are. Then you're able to establish an identity by who you've identified with. And guess what you've identified with? Yourself, by being transparent with yourself, with God by letting him in. And now this identity, what you identify with, is God and yourself. So it forms a sense of who you are. It forms a sense of balance and an anchor. When a person has identified with something, even if it's something wrong, that is what anchors them. The person that identifies with anger and rejection become the anchor. It becomes how they respond. And so the importance of you being true to you letting God in, establishes an identity that is founded in truth and is invaluable, and it becomes how you are known by your personality and your character, which is a lot of times where characteristic insecurity is either accepted or fought. And so I want you to understand here, this step of establishing identity, you can't pass step 1 and 2 to just say, this is who I'm going to be. Because a lot of people do that. They try to establish an identity outside of being true to them and letting God in. And what ends up happening is you're just mimicking someone else, or you're fighting real hard to be something that requires so much effort. Whereas if you do it the right way, it just becomes a part of who you are, and you're able to rest in identifying with the right things instead of, I just got to have these controlled responses and be a certain person. And so don't try to skip step 1 and 2, or even step 2, or maybe even step 1 and just do 2 and 3 or 1 and 3. It's not going to work. It's literally like baking a cake. Okay, would you make a cake without eggs if the box say you need eggs, or oil if you need oil, or butter? Something's going to be wrong. that thing gonna come out tasting like somebody's shoe. Same thing. Don't skip any steps, all right? Do them all so that you get the full benefit, all right? Next, and listen, this is the last part, but I gotta tell you, it's one of the most vital, critical, important parts. Your spirit walk consists of your internal nature walking with the God who made it. You know, a lot of times when we talk about a spirit walk, um, it can kind of get scary because we've ruined a lot of things in church with the wrong thinking, and you know, we've sensationalized a lot of things or made it something that it's not. And a lot of people believe that a spirit walk is, you know, you got to speak in tongues and pray in tongues all day. But a spirit walk is just simply saying God is a spirit, and he who worships him must do it in spirit and in truth. It's when your spirit man is in connection with his, it's how he speaks to us. And so you may never have to speak in tongues at all, or utter anything like that. Sometimes the spirit walk just consists of, God, man, I'm feeling really down today. Or when that happened, that really offended me, or I'm angry. Um, Spirit walk is just you connecting with what's in here and connecting with him. And anything that you gain from your transparency and letting God in and establishing an identity has to be maintained through fellowship and through relationship with God. And that is what your spirit walk is. Your spirit man is simply saying, I believe that you want to talk to me and that you care about me and that this is something that I want to. And so I'm going to let you in. And I'm going to fellowship with you, and I'm going to talk to you just like I get on the phone and talk to my girlfriends, or when I'm out for ice cream with the one that I'm dating, or when I go over mama's house, or you're not replacing him with other things or other people. He has the first part of your heart in your life. And if there's ever anything that you could call a cure, or feel could be a cure or consist of a cure, he's all in it. And it has to be maintained like any other relationship. And so I just encourage you, don't think about how much better you could be or what else you need to be in order for him to accept you. Just go to God with everything within you, everything you feel is right, everything you feel is wrong, and say, God, here I am. And I want to stay strong, and I want to maintain everything you've brought to me and you've gotten for me. And that consists of you walking with him. So listen, continue to go over your journal notes. We have one more week left. Hey, whenever you have free time, just go back to maybe the introduction in chapter 1 or 2 or 5 and just start to compare and look at some of your thoughts and your feelings and compare them to where you are now. And just take time to reflect and meditate and to think on some of the things you learned, not just about in the book, but about yourself and about God, and continue to grow. It is a process that must be maintained like a garden, watering and pulling up weeds and planting new things. You are your biggest investment, and you cannot be afraid or lazy in getting all of this and all of this together constantly, because it's a work in progress, and we renew our minds daily to grow and to change. And so listen, guys, one more week. We're going to be together, and I'm going to cry. But I will see you next week, and we're going to wrap this up. As always, it's been a joy, and thank you for letting me serve you.